This all started out with a meeting of three friends in total, when we were talking about the plight of the city. They were so disturbed by it, they felt other people needed to know. That text message went out, and it was for 15 or 20 people just to listen to what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the Max Caller Report. Does everyone know what the Max Caller Report is? No? Okay. It's going to be a long night. So that text message went out. It went out to a lot of people, 15. And then before we know it, I got, that same morning, 5 messages back saying, you come to this meeting? I thought, I'm speaking at it, you know. We then realised very quickly that we needed to have a bigger place to put it in, which is why we're here today. So the Max Caller Report. Clearly, the Max Caller Report was created by the Labour Party and the Conservatives together. This is not a partisan thing. This is about right and wrong. It's not about blue or red. When people came to see me about the Max Caller Report, it became very evident that the Echo hadn't done its job. The Echo, which is the litmus of truth for the city, didn't tell the people what had transpired. It wasn't the Conservatives coming to take over. It was the Labour Party and the Conservatives saying this is wrong and this needs to stop. The Max Caller Report states very clearly of 65 anomalies of where friendships gain control of assets. Assets that were sold for £1 that were later sold weeks later, months later, for millions and millions of pounds. In The Guardian, which is a Labour newspaper, it said it was £100 million. I'm saying it was more like £200 million. And that's nothing to do with the £320 million that we had to borrow in order to do the highways for the potholes, which within months went 13 million over budget. Why did it go over budget? Because there were 5 contractors that were paid before they finished the job. When Tony Reeves came in as the chief exec, he said, I'm not going to pay you any more until you pay me back for the jobs you haven't done. They went, no problem, we'll go bust. And they went bust. We lost 13 million. Now, you don't know that, do you? I can tell by the gasps. That is a fact. That's in the Max Caller Report, and it's a fact. It's been in the press, but it's been in the press where you don't see it on the front page, but I think that's front page news. £13 million alone is gone. The electricity contracts, that's a mistake, and I believe that was a mistake. The 13 million to do with the highways wasn't a mistake. It is clearly collusion between council officers, factually, and individual companies that gain the contracts from those friendships. So the Max Caller Report is something which, it isn't me stating that I think they've done something wrong. It is there, loud and proud, and there to see. So before we move on, does anyone have any questions about the Max Caller Report? Does anyone want to understand about how the process works with planning, how the process works with gifting out assets? Anyone have any questions? Yeah.
No, I think you should also point out that the Max Caller Report also highlighted the immense incompetence of the council.
Yeah.
And that was one of the causes of the mistake, with the £16 million loss by them not paying the electricity bill.
Yeah.
Total incompetence.
Yeah.
And that goes right down through the council.
Yeah. As I've just said before, the electricity debacle is really about incompetence. Everything else is friendships, collusion and corruption. Okay? Greed. There's 65 in the Max Caller Report of anomalies. But let's go on to, you could argue that a list of buildings such as this will cost more to refurb than the end value. Because the cost sometimes is so much because of its listed status. With a piece of land, you can't have that argument. All land is worth money. There's nothing that should ever be sold for £1. And I'm just going to give you an example. If you watch the podcast, you'll know this. So I apologise, but I'm going to go over it again because it's that important. If I find a piece of land tomorrow and I say to my council officer or council or mayor or whatever friend, and I say, I want that piece of land. I think, here's my plans. I can get 200 apartments on that piece of land. If it's in the city centre, it's worth £20,000 to £25,000 per planning permission per apartment. So if there's 200, that's £4 to £5 million. Now, in order for it to go through the council process, it has to go in front of the council officers, and they have to state why they want to give this away. And they say, the reason why we're gifting this away, because it's going to be 200 apartments, that's 100 years of receiving rates. So they sign it off as £1. And then weeks later, and the shortest term is 8 weeks, and the average week is 13 weeks, so not a long time, that individual then gets planning permission, because already agreed, because that's how they got out in the first place. He then gets planning permission for that site, for his 200 apartments, and he walks away with day one, £4 million property, which means he can sell it the next day between 4 and 5 million to whoever he wants. That's happened tons of times. All we have to do, if we're not corrupt, is say, what, you want that piece of land? No problem. What, 200 apartments on it? No problem. I tell you what, we'll go through the process because we own the land, we own the planning process. At the end of it all, we'll give it to you for 4 million, or we'll give it to you for 3 million, or we'll give it to you for 2 million. But we've never done it. And in the council report, mostly done through delegated powers, which is not the standard process. And in all councils, they have to abide by the Nolan principles, which means you need to get best value. And what it says in the Max Cole report is, we never gain best value. Never. Why didn't we gain best value? Because best value means you don't get looked after. If it's £4 million worth, and if I'm the mayor, and I want to give that off to my friend or someone who I know for £4 million, am I going to get anything out of that? Probably not. But if I give... Yeah, of course. Yeah, please.
Pleased to meet you, everyone. My name's Councillor Dave Cummins. I represent Williamsey Ward. What Lawrence is explaining, in the context of a local authority, there are committees that deal with everything like planning and highways, but there is a scrutiny committee. Now, what Lawrence is talking about, you'd expect these issues to be raised in the scrutiny committee. They are not raised. They are not raised. And that shows up this pathetic debacle that's running this city at the moment, how bad they are. That's all I wanted to say.
Can I ask a little question?
Of course, yeah.
Did that report identify whether this was elected members or is this employees of the council?
So let me just come back a step then. So in Manchester, perfect example of a council being run in a business manner. They had a 20-year plan 20 years ago, and you can see how they've leapfrogged over us, and they beat us in every aspect you can think of. Our council has been done through politics and friendships, and the politics and friendships have meandered off to their benefit and not ours. So that... I've got to be careful what I say because I don't know everyone in the room, but in essence, it is absolutely bona fide that they have put their friendships beyond that of the people that voted them into power. That's a fact. You can't deny it. As Mr. Cummins over there is pointing out, he's lived in the belly of the beast. He understands how that beast works. The government, as in the Conservatives, have been in power for 13 years. Isn't it weird that our council has been in power for roughly the same time? Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. They have done what they've done with, as soon as COVID came along, they went to wartime procurement, which meant that you didn't go through the normal policies on procurement, which meant that you could give out contracts to your friends, which is what happened. Slightly differently from our angle was with the Labour Party locally, they just colluded with collusion to friendships in order, in my view, to get backhanders. Yeah. So absolute power corrupts, absolutely, and there it is, Conservatives and Labour. The problem what we have now in the council, and I'm moving away from Max Cole report, but I do want to come back to it, is that when Gove was in charge, number 2 if you like, to Boris, he then got sacked and whatever, at the time, They were gung-ho coming for it. They were coming after the Labour Party locally. And then there was a lot of rhetoric, especially from the Echo, saying, we don't want the Conservatives here. They were not voting into power. It wasn't Conservatives, it was Whitehall. So the Conservatives then backed off. Now what we have is the Labour Party in Steve Rotherham now being he is the Metro Mayor, but he's now the chair over the committee for the insight to what's gone on. He's Labour Party. That's like giving the inmates the keys to the cells to say, what do you think? So he's not going to come in now. So we all know that there are certain investigations that Joanne Anderson, the new mayor, said, and she stated this in the press, I'm disgusted at what's gone on and I'm going to put it right. Another one was, I'm going to stop corruption. And they're there now actually not stopping corruption, but actually saying there's nothing to see here. Because it's Labour Party on Labour Party, and let's not forget there's May elections coming up. So this year, in May, for the first time ever, you've got all of the elections and all the councils in this city all happening at the same time. That was what Kenwright said he wanted to happen when he created the Max Cole report. Labour Party have always been in a great place because what's always happened in the past is there are, over 3 years, it's divided into 1/3. And then the 4th year is there's no elections. This time, for the first time, there's an opportunity for everyone to vote. Now, there's roughly about 20% of people who vote. So the 80% don't vote. I've never voted. I'm sure there's lots of people in this room that have never voted. Okay. So there's a disconnect, isn't there? And the disconnect is levied on the fact that you feel you can't make a difference. I'm saying, depending on what we do from here onwards, we can make a difference based on what we know is a fact. That either the councillors that have represented us are either in collusion with gangsterism and businessmen. If that's what you believe, then you have to stand up and be counted and go through the process of signing on to elect. And then in May, elect in your local councils. Like, are you gonna run, are you, in May?
Independent, I'm going to stand as a local resident independent.
So we need 85 in total of individuals to run. Now, I've built lots of businesses on social media, and I know that 85 individual people as beacons on social media will link together and not allowed to be bullied online, because those 85 people will come in to protect, but also allow the algorithm within Insta, Facebook and YouTube to blossom on the back of us pushing out content. So I understand that process, and there's various people in the room that are also experts at that process. I don't think Labour Party are experts at the process. I don't think Labour Party have sharpened their tools in many years. The Lib Dems are the opposition, but would it surprise you to know that there's only 30 names of Lib Dems that are going for what was 90 wards? So on their best day, let's say Labour Party tomorrow had fraud and corruption all over them, arrest charges, and all the people you know went to jail. Labour Party still gets in because they will have 85. They'll have 85 people representing the Labour Party. Those 85 people win by default because there's no one else against them. There's 30 Lib Dems. So they win anyway. So no matter what comes out, the Max Cole report, no matter what comes out with fraud and corruption, whatever. At this moment of time, there is no opposition in Liverpool. And I'm going to go back to what I said before. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. So we now know that the history of what's happened in the past is now no longer getting put in front of anyone, because the Echo is not doing its job. The Echo is the litmus of truth for the city.
To put it towards the back of the paper and it'll be as little as possible.
If they mention it at all. Yeah. When Joe Anderson got arrested in his home, and they were very nice to Joe, and he said, poor Joe got arrested at his home. He had to, go out inside in front of his neighbours in his jog pants. How disgusting is that for our mayor? But actually got arrested for something, On his links, they were to do with government issues. They weren't to do with Joe Anderson, which meant that story now disappears. You try and find stories now on his Google page for a mayor who's been arrested and being questioned and is still under investigation factually, and yet you can't find hardly anything on his first 2 or 3 pages. Why is that?
Yeah.
We also know that the Echo gained 1.4 million a year from Liverpool City Council. We also know that the editor Alistair McRae, gained a job. No one knows whether it's 120 grand a year or 170 grand a year, working at the ACC once he retired from the Echo. Why did he get a job as an editor to look after the event space? How's that work? He got a 120 to 170 grand job on the back of, in my view, looking after his pal. So.
And that doesn't work. It's got to be looking after society, our people.
Well, the problem is the Echo is the most trusted source with Google in the area, fact. So if the Echo states something, it is deemed as a fact. So therefore, you can't dislodge it. Sorry.
Yeah, Terry Clark, I'm a member of the Holy Cross and Marylebone Resident Action Committee. Our ward is part of the city centre, and our councillor, one of our councillors for our sins, is a fellow called Nick Small. Later on. But I'd just like to just reinforce what Lawrence is saying about the Cole report. There hasn't only been one report. There was one report when they sent 2 commissioners in. There's been at least 2 follow-up reports. The first follow-up report highlighted that there was still bullying going on in the council, and that bullying, as we know, the mayor, whose name is Joanne Anderson. She is, the mayor has absolute power, and if there's any bullying going on, it's going on her watch, and I would suggest with her approval.
Yes.
Now, I do know city councillors who've told me this, that every time there's a vote in the council chamber, and like Lawrence has pointed out, the Labour Party will always win every vote because they've got the majority.
And the whip.
Right, I'm just going to mention the whip, right. And what the whip is, it's a threat to every single councillor. You step out of line, we will take you out of every position you've got. If you're chair of a committee, we'll take you off that. We'll ruin your career. And that's what a whip is. And that's what the councillors are all working under now. They're working under fear. Yeah.
And MPs go to the same whip.
Yeah, MPs, they get blackmail basically. Yeah. So I know one particular councillor who actually got out of the sick bed for the last council meeting. And she was ordered to go there. Anyway, to reiterate, there's been at least 2 follow-up reports. The first follow-up report, after the Corner report, which highlighted incompetence, alleged corruption, and malpractice and bullying. First report, there was still bullying. The second report, which came out around about 6 months ago, actually said, instead of improving on the situation, which Joanne Anderson, the new mayor, promised you do, quote, it's gone backwards. So what we have now, under the rule, and it is a rule, of Joanne Anderson, is worse than what we had under Joe Anderson, in my opinion. But that's backed up by right now, we don't only have 2 commissioners. I think we have 6, is that right? Yeah. We have 6. Five then, sorry, yeah. And they've taken over all the major departments in Liverpool. So nothing goes through planning, finance, education. The main parts have all been taken over by government. Tory government, I've got to say. Tory government commissioned commissioners. So basically, we are being ruled by the council. So that's where we are, right? So we're in a really bad situation. But as Lawrence pointed out, the average turnout for a local election is around about 20%. Now, as an action group, myself, Vicky, and a few of our others, we've got like 30 people, at least 30 people together, and they're all active, we're ready to roll out on the streets, and we've got banners made already. Don't vote for Nick Small. Don't vote.
Amen.
we're pretty confident that we can win this because, believe it or not, our area is one of the most deprived areas in Europe as it happens. It's an inner city area. And the voter turnout and the apathy is really bad. The last local elections, the turnout was 13%, which means 87% of the people in my area didn't vote. Now we're going to get them all out, and this is where we've got our strength in our communities. I'm sure Lawrence will expand on this.
Yeah,
one.
sure.
Yeah? So just
Thank you very much.
for listening.
Can I ask a question? With regards to reports, reports, I think there are.
Yes. Yeah. Just search Max Cole report. What's really disturbing is the last one was one saying it's really good now. There's nothing to see. So that's what's concerning. Well, so if we don't understand history, then history will repeat.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we need to all understand and all educate ourselves. Because I could tell when I first walked in the room, there wasn't an awful lot of people that have read the report. Now, the report is damning of how the council is ran, but how the council will fall back in to run, because Joe Anderson had to stand down from the Labour Party because of what's transpired. Joe Anderson can't sign this off. As the mayor, it has to go down the line into council officers to sign it off. No one else has been suspended. No one else has been told to stand down. So the cabal that supported Joe, that mechanism, is still there today, okay? So if it is still there today, it won't be long before they go back to go and collect again. And all I'm saying is, I believe we've been gifted an opportunity based on the inaccuracies and the fraud and the corruption, which they're not my words, by the way. They're in the Max Cole report. The collusion is there.
Can I just point out
Yep.
also, when I stood in Everton in May last year, Ian Byrne stepped aside for his daughter to step into his shoes, which is nepotism at its
Yes.
finest.
Yeah.
It's absolutely...
But expand on, is it Ellie Byrne, is it?
Ellie Byrne, yeah.
What, 19 years of age?
23, something like that.
No, I think she was 19 at the time.
She
was 19.
So there was only 15% turned out in Everton because no one's got any faith in any of them. Anne O'Byrne's daughter is in there. Joe Anderson's daughter is now part of the Independents who claim to hate the Labour Party. They were part of the corruption.
And maybe warming the seat for Joe to come back in.
That's exactly what they're doing. So the thing we've got to do, as not just individuals, as a community collective. I'm in my final year of politics, and I went and studied it for the simple reason my youngest son has become a heroin addict. This is a kid who grew up in a fucking loving home. He has everything handed to him. I've been married for 30 years, and gangsters are building this city for themselves and their dirty, rotten families. It's built on, if this city is built on that, and we have got to make a change. Someone's got to stand up. To Kevin, to Terry Mason, here on Twitter with Terry Mason.
I'm in the background.
And someone's got to do it, and I'm prepared to stand and put my head above the parapet, not just for my son, but every son.
So thank you. So before we get into the possible party, which I don't think that's about tonight. Tonight's about understanding just what the council have done when they've gained what is our main assets. And to give you some example of that, and I know I'm going on about it, but we all need to understand this. Liverpool owns 15,000 properties and an immeasurable amount of land. We are not skint. We have a lot of value underneath our feet, a huge amount of it. Yet we're walking around with our heads held low. And there's no reason for it. But the skill set is based on what's been an autocracy. And we need to create a meritocracy. People need to be there based on their skill set and not on their friendships. Now, I don't think we need to go on anymore about fraud and corruption. We can, if you want. But it's clear, it's obvious. It isn't my word saying it. I know for a fact it went on. The Max Cole report states as a fact that it went on. So we know it's there. It's what do we do going forward? And maybe that is the question. Do we stand up to be counted? Do we rise up? Well, maybe we do. We all have to understand, to do that, there's a few problems we have. We need 85 people to stand in 80... Great, okay. So we need 85 people to stand. That's a tall order, by the way. So here's the thing, right? Rather than someone like Dave standing on his own, there's 85. But we're all brothers in arms. We're all there to make sure that if someone's getting lambasted online, we jump in. We don't leave them on their own. To understand the algorithm within Facebook, Insta and YouTube, it's about, let's just say, there's 85 councillors. We have a message, it goes out. When that message gets shared with a comment and a like and a share, that then opens up like a flower then. And then the algorithm opens up and then it pushes out, because then it becomes really relevant to the algorithm. And it's about understanding how the algorithm works and playing to that algorithm. Labour Party don't understand that. They haven't sharpened their skill set in years. There's no opposition. They just go, we get in anyway, throw a few leaflets through the door. Exactly, throw a few leaflets through the door and we're going to win. If we come together with 85 able-bodied people, raring to go, ready to put themselves out there, understanding that everyone is there to be a human shield for them as well, so you don't have to worry about being abused by anyone, then surely that has to be the way forward. Sorry, Kev.
What's your name, sorry? So I think what Dylan's just said then, to me, is what I want to change in this city. I'm sick of that mentality of bullying. You know, we're just there like, we just have to get on with it while there's these people there. And like anybody who wants to stand up and make a difference. That's why I'm not there with you standing there, because I didn't want to stick my head out. And why? Give me life up to create change in the city. We're creating a massive change in the city, changing people's lives every day. Yet you're still wearing a stick in your head out, but all you're sticking your head out for is to make a difference to our kids' futures.
Right.
So that is what you've just said then is what I think. I'm looking around the room here and I feel dead proud to see so many beautiful people in this room, like solid scousers who want to see a better future for our kids. And I think whatever comes of today, I think that this needs to happen more regularly. Community needs to stop being so apathetical about what's going on in the city. We need to get a voice and we need to support each other.
And I think people need to respect each other, you know, no matter what your background is or your views, you know what I mean? You should find common ground, you know, and come together.
And I think,
as you said there, if you stand again, you've got 80, or you've got more.
Well, hopefully,
I am standing again, like.
Go on, Dave. Go on.
I just want to be clear about this, because some people don't know the situation. When you put yourself forward, as you'll know because you've done it, when you put yourself forward as a candidate in a local election, you don't have to put any money up. In a local election, you don't have to put any deposit up, so you don't have to pay any money. All you need is 11 signatures to bona fide you to stand in the particular ward that you want. That's all you need to become a candidate. Now, what you've just explained is when he was standing as an individual, he didn't have 3 or 4 or 5 people around him supporting him in that ward to get out the leaflets, knock on the door. Now, what we're trying to do here is if people want to stand up in a ward and be a candidate, we'll get at least 5 or 6 people around that person to work in the ward with them, rather than leaving that person by themselves, you know, with no support. No, so this meeting is about letting people know it's not hard to stand as a candidate. You don't need to put any money down. All you need is 11 people in the ward you're standing in to sign for you. But beyond that, as us as a collective, we can help you out. Simple as that.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'll stand up with you back there. I've got a design from the distribution company and I've posted leaflets for Labour in the past. So if you need...
You are now our God.
I'm post leaflets for them,
yeah.
I won't deliver them.
Yeah. Oh. Double God. Sorry, come.
Yeah, interesting what Dave said. Now we have got some power in this room. I can tell you, as an ex-Labour Party member who's been kicked out, obviously, that there are more people tonight here than there are than there have been for the last 2 years in any Labour Party.
And by the way, that's from one text message that went out internally viral. That's all.
And this is only the beginning. And we are already strong.
I'm not from a political background, I'm from personal.
Nor am I. None of us are.
What worries me is that you said before that the Labour Party keep getting the votes and people are apathetic, the low turnout, etc., allows them to carry on doing that.
Yeah.
You took a poll when we saw how many people have read that report and are knowledgeable about that. Surely the message is get that out there.
Of course.
Get out there, tell them what's been going on.
So let me enlarge upon that then. So this is the first of what I hope is many meetings. If you have a community where you want me to come and talk, I'll come and talk. I'll spread that message. But the first port of call is social media. Don't forget, I've been battered and abused by the Echo. And I'm still here. Yeah, no, sure. But when you have 85 stories, Brian will obviously confirm all this. All we did was open a homeless shelter. At the time, the council said that there is registered 20 homeless in the whole of the city. They stood up, pat themselves on the back, they give themselves a standing ovation. I was there in the council when they done it. I was mortified because I knew I had 85 in mine. And they started then with the bullshit rhetoric of, they are not real homeless people, they're professional. I'm not saying that there aren't professional homeless people who have professional habits of drug taking. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there is a huge amount of homeless people that didn't conform to the second night on the street. Do you remember Frank Hunt's comments about there will be no second night on the street? So Frank Hunt was head of housing at the time, no longer there as a councillor, but he stated that there will be no second night on the street. Every single person that walked into our Kingsway house, 18 people the first night, by the fourth night there was 85. True, Brian? True. Everyone had ingrained dirt, some had maggots growing out their legs, because that's where they inject. So a lot of these people haven't been out of the doorways in years, and we're injecting the groin because that's where you get your best fix. And obviously that's not the most cleanest of areas, so therefore that will get infected. That becomes an abscess, maggots grow out, and there's a horrific smell that comes from it. That's in the city, that's now, and that's what got me drawn into it. I think I'm doing the right thing, and I'm opening the shelter. I meet Brian for the first time. Brian was about 8.5 stone at the time, and he said to me at the time, I just want to meet my son. And then we go forward, we have 85 people, we feed 150 every single day, and then they come after us. For frig's sake, what did they want to come after us for? So they did.
I went to work at a homeless shelter, and because the council didn't like what the things I put on Facebook, they got me sacked.
Well, they got him sacked. No, it wasn't that. They got him sacked, not because he was telling the truth. Everyone's saying the same thing. They got him sacked because of his association to me. So just to give you an example of what happened, when we had Kingsway House, it then went to Cotton Street. When we closed Cotton Street down, it was in the middle of the pandemic. The council come to the people that ran, who worked for me, and said, if you get rid of Lawrence Kenwright, we'll give you £78,000. So they got rid of me. Fine, by the way, they come to me and went, look, we've got to get rid of you. If your name's not attached, we can get £78,000. I went, great. Does that mean homeless people are okay? Yes, they are. Okay, do it. So they got rid of him, £78,000. And then the next one was Brian. So they got rid of me, and then they got rid of Brian, and they give a similar amount of money to get rid of Brian. Sorry?
Is it better than their madness? Of course. It wasn't that. It broke my heart when I was there. I put my heart and soul into that.
Yeah, but look, you're far better now than what you were there.
Yeah, I know.
People in submission, that is a second way. But if you've got a group of people with the same passion for truth and fairness, it can change. It can absolutely change, but everyone's got to stand together.
Do you have any plans for the...
Say again.
Do you have any plans for the youth community, like getting them into sports, music, creativity, business?
Let's just say we managed to get 85 independents running that create a sort of a party that's led by committee. So let me just run through that committee thing for a minute. You've had a mayor, you've had a leader, you've got committee. The council decided to do a vote. The number one position came in at mayor, even though the mayor is not being run well, clearly. The second one that came in was the committee, and the third one was the leadership. The Labour Party decided to go for the leadership. They've now appointed their new leader, who's from Macclesfield, by the way. He's not even a Scouser. I've got none against anyone not coming from here to look after it, but no one understands our city like a Scouser. If you're born here, I'm born in Walton, I understand the city. I understand how it works. You've got to have lived here, and he may argue that he's lived here for 10 years, which he has. So the angle for how we go forward would be, in my view, my contribution will be to develop the city and help turn some of that immeasurable land I spoke of before into developments where all the money goes to the communities. And in those communities, that money will be a conduit to getting back open the youth centres again. So the youth centres of yesterday ended up being conduits to drug dealers, sadly. The conduits today need to be, so let's just say Home and Bargain want to run Walton Youth Centre. It would be Home and Bargain, Walton Youth Centre. And it would be their job, the MD's job and the director's jobs, to make sure that there is a conduit out of Walton into employment. So they're not looking at the drug dealer in the car and the BMW saying, I want to be like him. Which hopefully has changed now because a lot of them are in jail. But hopefully then that gives them a path out. So we want to make sure that we bring back those communities, because those communities actually have gone into all the boxing clubs. So the boxing clubs have become almost the de facto custodians of kids. And it's there for that. But you need the youth centre alongside it again. I want our youth and I want our city to be the coding capital of the UK. And if we can, rather than having, what we have now is we have a brain drain. People will go to London and pay £2,000 for the shoebox in order to work in London, when actually they can come and work in Liverpool and get a 2-bed for £700 to £1,000 a month. I went to Joe Anderson with this idea 6 years ago. In the Cunard, there's 18,000 square foot downstairs. I said, why don't we let all of our students, rather than migrate out, let them come into the Cunard, give them a free desk, give them a grant, because the grants are there to have, by the way. And let's have a meeting there every single Friday and bring over Liverpool's business leaders and let these coders meet the business leaders and get work from them. They'd be on the phone and on the internet saying, you know what London for? Come here, it's brilliant, because they're getting a free desk, they're getting grant money, and they're getting conduits into the main companies in the area. All of a sudden, you've got a hub then for coding. But imagine the council being behind it and all the local businesses that are doing really well, but actually being conduits to those people going, well, I've just started, just left university, I've got a desk, I've got a computer, I know I can code, and they've got a conduit into work right away. So, sorry, Kev.
So this is what appealed to me. So I run a community organisation in Liverpool, and I'd seen Lawrence's podcast over there. I'd actually said I was going to switch off over Christmas. I was watching some fella playing air hockey or something, and then your podcast popped up.
My ugly mush.
So then, next minute, I think the thing what stood out to me the most with working in the community and seeing, like, you know, the impact that, you know, it's having on kids' lives, and then I think what the podcast said to me was that you weren't just spouting off, just calling people. You were offering solutions, like you just said then, about how the money's going to go back into the community. And that was what appealed to me. And that was when I ended up speaking to you, didn't I? And that really, really appeals to me, that, you know, that these kids are going to get exactly what they deserve to be getting, is the money getting put back into the city. And I think that's why we're all here today. And I think one of the big things to me, we always talk about the kids, what we're going to do. I can get the kids involved, let's hear the kids. I always say to the kids in our groups, you know, your future's getting created today. Why should us get to be creating their future and they haven't got a say? Let's get them in and get them involved, because we can't, you know, this meeting's come about us being, you know, too much apathy and ignorance from us and just, you know, putting a cross in a box and then someone else is going to do that. It's time that we all realise it's us who's got the power. You're right. But we've all got to be involved. And we've got to
Hi everyone, I'm so proud of this room at the minute, but I'm especially proud of Lawrence Kenwright, who has actually got us all here. And as he's pointed out, the power of social media is absolutely huge. And things escalate. It's all a numbers game. How many people are in your immediate family? How many friends do you have who are on social media? Most people are now. Even if it's not social media, you get it out. You can. Most people here have got how many friends, how many family, you just repeat what's been said tonight, and every single person have really touched me on your stories and your honesty, and you're just sick of what's going on. We're all sick of it. It's all, Lawrence is an activist, he acts, the council act for themselves, they're all self-serving assholes. That's all they are. They are liars, they are thieves. Lawrence is a lot more. I'm trying to be as quiet as possible and not to say anything that's out of place. But the majority of them, there are a few good ones still out there, but they are not for you. They're not for your children. They're not for your grandchildren. They are self-serving, and we have to get rid of them.
Come over because his son was in uni in Manchester, and he said he wanted to set up a hip hop museum in Liverpool and take it around the world and that. And he was looking to invest money and do stuff. And I went to all council people and that, and sort of got shut down by them. But it was all about community unity, getting the youth off the streets and being delinquents and putting them in. And I thought, you know, it's gone on for years. Like, it's the oldest Irish and black community, and there've been no Irish, no blacks, no dogs. And there's like, obviously there's elite families and businesses, and it's been like that for ages, and people at the top want to stay there. But obviously there's a lot of people who are on YouTube now and looking at YouTubers and influencers and stuff like that. So there is a big opportunity to do it, especially with some backing like Paddy the Baddy or something like that. Like, it'd be easily done, I think.
First of all, I just want to echo what this lady said about organising this. And
thank you.
One thing that I've found out is, as soon as you challenge the status quo, it comes against you, doesn't it? Yeah. And you know, it's not easy from what I've seen. And if you do stand against it, usually your career is ruined, or you know, you get sacked, or you put in prison like Julian Assange or people say. And I just wonder, I think it's a fantastic idea what you've suggested. And I think, well, the people who run everything ain't going to like that.
No.
You know, and they're going to, I think, try everything they can to stop this happening. And I think, well, and I agree what you said about using social media, how powerful that is. And like you, I've never voted because I don't trust them.
Sure.
Okay? And it's not hard to go on Google and Google corruption in Liverpool and just read all
you'll see my face all over it. I'm chatting with Joe all the time.
Nick Small and Joe Anderson and stuff. And you spend half an hour and there's tons of stuff there. And you just realise how corrupt the city is. And it's wonderful to have the spark of this, you know, change here. I just wonder, how do you get 85, is it, councillors, who have got integrity and honesty, who can't be bought, who've got a skill set, who want to do what we all want to do, is bring about positive change in it and use the assets and grow the city and eradicate.
Okay, so
you can be one of them.
Well, I mean, I'll do whatever I can to help do that. Well, I just want to say, I've been looking at corruption for a long time, locally, nationally, globally. And it's not easy to stand up against it. They usually, you know, they run everything. They run the media, okay? They're in powers of position. They run the police, the courts, the lot. But what gives me faith is what happened with the Hillsborough family lot.
That took 30 years though. We need to be 30 days.
Which is a long time. But I'm thinking, what strategy, what plan have you got to get the right people?
Okay, so before we get to the right people, we've got to make sure that there's fire in the belly to every Scouser, of which I do believe we've been gifted for the first time serious wrongdoings by the people voted into power by the people. There's only 15% that vote Labour. That means the other 85% is there for grabs. 5% are already registered, the other 80% don't. Because they've treated us so badly and took us for granted, I see this as the pebble in the pond that creates a tidal wave. So that pebble in the pond, that little ripple that comes from here, comes from this room tonight. So every single person in Liverpool needs to hear of the transgressions of the local Labour Party. No, I know that. I know.
If you look under that, it's
Yeah.
Unite and the Flanagan.
Yeah, of course.
The
Yeah.
ones that absolutely rule the city.
Yeah. So
And
that.
I'm not from here, and you can go back in history and not where the
No, sure.
got their money. And
That's so. If you want to go into Unite, that stranglehold is nowhere near as strong as having Len McCluskey, who was the Rasputin to the Labour Party, who gave the Labour Party £4 million a year, who's no longer there because Keir Starmer, ex-head of the CPS, has gone after him.
but because of him, we've got Dan Carden, we've got Ian.
We have, but he hasn't got the power anymore. Unite haven't got the same power because their beacon, which is the NEC, which he ran, he no longer runs because Keir Starmer threw them out. That's a fact. So the landscape's not the same as what it was. And again, sorry, just let me to finish. That landscape, we're all scarred with what's gone on in the past. You are, I know you are, I am. There's people in this room who are scarred. That scarring takes a while to go down. It's took me a long time to want to fight back. It's been 3 years since I've had my battle with the council on my own, by the way. And I'm still here and I'm still fighting. So that debacle that happened to me, actually, I don't believe can happen again. Mine started with a meeting with Len McCluskey in London. I went all the way to London to meet Len and Derek Atton and Joe Anderson when they were saying, are you going to run? And I'm going, no, I'm not running. But I opened a homeless shelter. They seen it as a political play and they just smashed right through me. And I was naive. I'm not naive anymore. I know what they've done. I know how they do it and how they work it. They can't beat the people and they can't take away the fire in the belly of fraud and corruption. Not when everyone's skint. Not when the bill's coming in for Johnny's bike at the end of Jan and they can't pay it and you got a choice, do I pay me credit card bill and have a 20% fine, or do I pay me lecky bill, or do I pay me mortgage? They're the issues now. I'm saying that Liverpool should never sell an asset ever again. Just like Singapore. No, it's not me. It's us. No, but it's not me. It's us. It's important. It's us.
I think them days of like all looking to someone else have gone. I think we've all got to look at ourselves. And we've all. That's why I created what I do now with the community, because I was moaning about the world all the time and nothing's changing. Then I realised it's not going to change unless I change, unless I bring into the world what I want to see in the world. So whatever we want to see, if we don't want to see corruption, we want to see honesty, we've got to bring honesty into the world. We want to see peace.
You've got something to do, I know. So he does the homeless outreach.
How do you share this message in a cohesive way without falling apart? So like, we're all saying the same thing on social media to everyone in a calm, collected manner that doesn't provoke aggression or doesn't.
No.
The angle falls on deaf ears and stuff, but we're all sitting out there.
Yeah. I think it's going to be
How do we get that cohesive so we're all sharing the same message?
It's got to be explained in a certain way. I think everyone's got to remember why people are here tonight. Something a catalyst why people are here, because there is apathy within the city, and you speak to everyone and go, the Tory commissioners, the Tory this, the Tory this. But what we've got to remember as a city, and as citizens of this city, why these Tory commissioners are here. If our city council was brilliant and all citizens got looked after, if this was the Tories down south, which we look at and see the top 1 or 2% all getting looked after by the mates of Michelle Moon getting a £29 million project, we call it out and call them all kind of call them fit to burn. But when we see it, we don't expect it from our own people. But this is what's happening. It's ways we expect it from the Tories. We don't expect it from people of our own. And this is what's happening. So it's got to be the catalyst for people to get off their arse. Instead of having the apathy of thinking 15% get on board, but it's got to be explained to them and say to them, listen, it's not the Tories running our city, the Tories are running the city for a reason. If our city council did brilliant and distributed the wealth out across the citizens of the city instead of the top few, the places wouldn't be a shithole. Kirkdale, County, Anfield, Evans, Tuebrook, to name a few. They're getting left behind. Where's the investment? It's all going in people's arse pockets and ends off.
Of course, Ken.
As an outsider, I've worked in a number of local authorities up and down the United Kingdom. I've also done housing advice in relation to Scotland as well. Housing is in my blood. The unfortunate thing for local authorities that I work for is that my primary consideration is always about the service I'm providing to the client. What's happened over time, unfortunately, party politics, because I call it what it is, politics. I'm asking questions of these landlords, of this organisation. My son, my scout son, Callum, ended up taking his life in July 2021. That broke my heart, but it angered me because his death was preventable. I've since learned that this organisation, whose housing service has only been operating since November 2019, from November 2019 to July 2021, when Callum died, there have been 5 suicides of vulnerable people who are tenants of this organisation. I realise it's no accident, it's no coincidence that the chief executive of this organisation is a councillor. He was a Labour councillor. I can speak on this because it's in the public domain. He was suspended from the Labour Party in 2019 due to allegations of sexual harassment. Before that investigation could conclude, he jumped ship. I understand that he then became a councillor for the Liberal Democrats, and now he's an independent in the same ward. I've raised adult safeguarding referrals regarding my Callum's death and the death of these vulnerable people. I raised adult safeguarding referral concerns regarding the state. I have never in 30 years seen homelessness in any city, and I've lived in a number of cities in different parts of the UK. I've never seen it on the scale that I've seen it here in Liverpool. I've never seen the lack of humanity for people who are homeless as I witnessed here in Liverpool. And it saddens me, but more than that, it angers me. And anger is actually a positive emotion that you can do something with. And this is what we need to do. We really need to do this. We need not to talk about doing it. We need to actually stand and be counted. I wouldn't stand for one of these 85 councillors because A, I'm not from Liverpool and I haven't been here long enough, but I certainly believe that I have an understanding of the key issues that affect the people in Liverpool, and I will support whoever stands in the ward I live in, Walton. So whoever stands in our ward, I will do everything I can to support them, because we need to get these corrupt criminals out.
Go on, Dave.
I'd just like to echo what you said there, and I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm really sad about that. If you live in Liverpool and you're a taxpayer in Liverpool, you pay your council tax, you can stand. It's as simple as that. I just want to say that the reason why we're here tonight, apart from Lauren setting this up, is that we feel let down by local councillors, right? But the reason why those local councillors are there is because we haven't got together and we haven't stood, and we put up our trust in them who have let us down. I say this to many people, right? Get in touch with your local councillor and ask where they live. Most of them don't even represent the ward that they represent. They don't even live in the ward. They live on the other side of the city, you're there and everywhere. So I'm a great believer in this. Actions speak louder than words, right? So wait a minute, please don't clap, because when the pandemic was on and we were all clapping for the NHS, I didn't clap once. And the reason why I didn't clap, I said they don't need claps. They need better rates of pay and working conditions. That's what they need, not claps. So let's not start clapping. Let's start thinking to ourselves, can I represent the area where I live? What support mechanism is round me if I put myself forward? Which is the conduit or what network do we use to co-help each other? So we get up a Facebook page or a Twitter page, any one of them, where we can all feed off each other, and then other people can find out where that person is standing. I only live 2 streets round the corner, I'll help them, you live round the corner. So the people who are standing in particular areas have a small network around them to help them campaign, and then help and advice off others. We don't walk away from this meeting tonight going, that was a really good meeting, but I'll leave it to somebody else to put themselves forward. It's your opportunity now. It's your opportunity. You don't have to pay any money to put yourself forward as a candidate. You don't have to put down any deposits. All you need is 10 or 11 signatures in the ward that you want to stand. That's not all.
You might not be in this room. Excuse me, Dave, sorry. You might go, God, I know a perfect person for this.
Yes, if you know someone else.
I know someone.
Yeah.
I can't give the time, or I don't have, for whatever reason, I know someone. Somebody will know someone.
So the answer to that is that tonight hopefully is only the first of what could be many meetings in communities to raise awareness, to also hopefully bring in more people to the table. I'm just mindful that we're going on quite a while now, and we need to probably bring it to a close soon. There's 2 more questions to be asked. One is the lady in the back.
So I would definitely put myself forward as a candidate. Me and Kev tried to do something like 2 years ago with the Green Party, and we very quickly realised that these people have no good intentions. We said we would self-fund the lot. No, we kind of just come up with obstacles and obstacles and obstacles. Sure. So we sort of, we left that one.
But you wouldn't be on your own this time.
And I think in terms of, obviously everybody's got their personal stories and connections, but as you say, it boils down to the communities are lacking. And when you're a young person, you're thinking of these million, I'm not arsed about these people who are getting buildings for £1 and making millions off them. That's so far from like my realm that I live in. But what they need to understand is, in short form, I think social media is definitely the way. In short form is obviously how that's directly impacting them and getting that information out there. Like, don't get no offence to any councillors in here, but young people, that's not the way we live in now. It's boring. No one wants to listen to it, so they need to understand how it directly affects them. We live in a very selfish, me, entitled culture with the youth now. So we need to obviously attract to these people and create content to obviously understand where it's coming from. Because me, living in Anfield, poor skint, my mum's on job seekers, whatever, we need to cut it down to short form to appeal to the youth. No one wants to sit and listen to hours.
Thank you. One last question, Steve. Do you want to do yours, and then we'll bring this to a close?
Yeah, just to reiterate what's been said, I work in the voluntary sector and I help people and families and with divorce and things. I've got to go in the sector. That's why I was open Lawrence to do this. The conduit we need is Lawrence, because he proved tonight in this one tweet, you're all here. And you can't lose that now. You've got to utilise it. And the lady over there, my condolences, the anger has to come from you. But the anger has to come more so because things could have changed 3 years ago. When Joanne Anderson came in, because the report was done and the commissioners were coming in June. She became the mayor then. Now, when she became the mayor, she had the authority to do what she wanted to do. She could have investigated everyone. She could have sacked everyone. She could have done the right thing. She didn't. The commissioners came in, and just to clarify, the commissioners don't have the remit to sack anyone or do anything about the historic. They're here to do what's from the day they came in to now. Anything before, that can't be done by them unless the government tell them to. It's in the actual documents. So it's up to the people in this room now to be the galvanised ones who start the process. And as Lawrence has said, the 85. I'm solution provider on the internet, and probably don't know me from that. Now, I spoke to Vicky from Marylebone, and what we've got to have is gentlemen like you and a group like you together in 85 different areas. That's what's got to happen to beat the bullying and the vindictive nature of all the parties that are in Liverpool, because it's all the parties in Liverpool have failed. The council's failed because it's been run by the wrong people. So it's up to the people in here to start the ball rolling. And that's why the social media, as you said, that's the key part to how everything's going to happen from now. Because it's not going to be a meeting and we all go away and it all disappears and it's gone. Yeah. This is where Lawrence becomes the conduit. we create an organisation that comes together with 85 people who have got people who will back them. Because unfortunately you can't have one person do it because they will get annihilated. It's got to be a group like Malibone backing someone in their area, and that's what we're going to have 85 times in this city. It's not a hard job to do because we're Scouts. That's the beauty of it, because we will stick together, but you've all got to work together to do it. And from this day on, start the ball rolling, because we haven't got much time to do it, but I believe we can do it. You just got to make sure the right people stand up and we back them all. That's how it will work, and that's why I'm really pleased Lawrence set this up tonight, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. So just to finish off, I didn't set this up. Actually, it was Kevin who set it up. The idea came from Kev because Kev felt that people didn't know the seriousness of the nature of the transgressions of the council. So for me, it is about me being involved, and it's about you being involved. But it's also about, before we leave tonight, please leave us your name, your phone number, your email. Let's create this small, tight-knit community, and let's make sure that it goes out to the other wards. Because it's the other wards that we need to impregnate in order for them to understand exactly what we're trying to get to. Which is, all we're trying to get to is the truth. What's transpired over the last 13 years should never be allowed to happen again. We've been gifted with lies, fraud, corruption. It's not a negative for me now, it's a positive for us, because we'll use that to light the fires in the bellies of the people that haven't come off a couch in years to vote against the Labour Party that have took everybody for granted for 50, 60, 70 years. So anyone who's 75 and above, it's going to be hard to turn them round. Anyone younger, they're all fair game. And I am one of them people who has never voted ever in his life because I've always felt ostracised and I've never believed in anything. I think now it's worse than ever because the Conservatives and the Labour Party, there's a cigarette paper between the two. They're so similar. Everything that Starmer is now saying is all a reflection of the Conservative Party. It is Blairites. And by the way, I've got nothing against Blair and I've got nothing against Starmer. I just think it's moved far too much to the middle, and we need to turn the triangle upside down. The people at the top of that triangle, the elite, don't matter. The next phase down, don't matter. But the bottom rung really does matter. I mean, they turn upside down and they become the most important people within our society, and we look after them first. A society can only be measured by how it looks after its most vulnerable. Let's just bring this to a close now. One more, come, sorry, come.
I've been involved in years with community. I've seen it all with people like this. Everything that's turned out tonight, and congratulations to you for bringing this about. I know you can't go into it now, but on the planning, that's quite important to bring the money into the city.
Yeah.
Right, so that means obviously refining how planning is organised in the city and the development values which you've gone into. People should go to your site to see the details that you're talking about how money can be recirculated through planning permissions, legal reports, not just section 106 which disappears somewhere, but those absolute values to our assets. We haven't got a proper land registry to show what all the assets are in the city. So you should look at the site to see how he elaborates on that. And the other, elastic point I'll make is people don't take much notice here. We're going to have managed decline city, manage what the Tories have always wanted through dispersal management from Whitehall. So, and then with the cuts going on now, Liverpool, this year will be nothing compared to the authority we're going to get to do it.
So let me just go to just a couple of points and then we will wrap it up then. Liverpool's got two major sources of income. First one being property development, which creates a lot of employment, and the other one is tourism. I've been involved in both. With property development, planning permission under the new control of Joanne Anderson. Now this is where Joe Anderson was good. So with Joe Anderson, the average planning term was 13 weeks. So let's just say you're a developer and you've got £10 million and you want to park it in Liverpool. At this moment of time, that £10 million costing you 9% a year. That's 900k per annum. The problem now is Liverpool has gone from a standard average of 13 weeks into 2 years. So your £10 million that's now parked in Liverpool is now going to cost you 1.8 million before you were getting planning permission. Then you've got to deliver the site, which is another 18 months. So before you even start your 10 million, it's just being eroded by 3.6 million. Okay, so that ain't happening. So people now, I know, I'm in that world, aren't parking their money in Liverpool, which means the corrosion of jobs is heavily set, based on Liverpool having a higher unemployment rate than the rest of the UK by 50%, at least, depending on what report you look at. Clearly, come January, there's going to be an awful lot more of the tourism jobs going now as well. The development jobs are going because there's no planning coming through. The tourism jobs are going to go as well because there's going to be enough money because everyone's now getting frightened into not spending. The government have created so much money to give it out to the friendships, which creates, because of that additional money that's being printed off, that's created a huge amount of taxation on the poor called inflation. In order to take that money, in order to get inflation down, they have to starve the economy of cash. To starve the economy of cash will bring down inflation, but it also kills off the economy. Which tourism is the thick end of any economy, which always goes first. So Liverpool has only got tourism and property development, and I'm saying both of them are actually in severe decline. So we have to make sure that come May, actually we take control of our city, however way that comes, based on a meritocracy, based on people in positions to make decisions based on their knowledge, not based on what's happened in Liverpool, which is based on their friendships. Because the friendships are there to vote into place the extended friendships of property developers. So these are facts, by the way. I'm saying this out in an open room, not worried about being recorded, because I know it's a fact. And it can't be denied, and it's backed up by the Max Cole report. So I'm saying, if we don't do something come May, I think we're putting a noose around our neck. Anyway, so I just want to say thank you very much for coming. Now we need to bring this to a close.